The fourth video in my series on Oommen Chandy is on how Oommen Chandy spent 1 hour a day for 7 days without fail, giving time to people who would never have got his time otherwise. This was how he became a volunteer for Daan Utsav, which is a national program on gifting. His care for individuals who had, one could see that, from his Janasambarga Parivadi program that he had, the number of people with disabilities who came, they came in ambulances, they came in wheelchairs, they came in stretchers, and he would care, he would support them, care for all of them. So that was something which was a big, I would say, one of his biggest qualities on his care and his understanding of those sectors. I should mention a very interesting thing here was that when you talked about care, I don't know how many of you have heard about the Daan Utsav. Daan Utsav is something which happens in October and is actually a national voluntary effort where 1 week it's a gift. It is actually a festival of gifting where you gift something which is very dear to you to someone who really deserves it. And the Daan Utsav team asked me whether something could be done. And I said, let's go and meet the chief minister. They said, there's no point in meeting a politician. They're not going to do much. We went and met him at Cliff House a few months before October. And I explained to him what it was. He said, that's good. What do you want me to give? You want me to give a month's salary, or should I give something else? Or do you give something from the chief minister's relief fund? So I asked him, what is the most difficult thing that people need from you, that you don't have enough of? And he said, it's time. I said, can you give 1 hour of your time per day for those 7 days? And you have to give it to people who don't normally have access to you. And he said, that's interesting, and let me do that. And he agreed. He said, okay, from the 2nd of October for 1 week, every day 1 hour I will spend for the Daan Utsav, giving time to people who don't normally have access to it. And so when we moved out, the office, the two people who were major volunteers, very well people, one from Bangalore and one from, I think, Delhi, they said, are you sure he's going to do it? I said, let us see. He said he will do it. We're not talking about it elsewhere, but let's see what happens. A few days before, towards the end of September, he called me one day and said, I don't know, many of you would know that he has a very small diary with him, where he notes down things which probably he only can read. It's about his appointments, what he needs to do. And he called up and he said, I need to do this program. You told me to do it. Tell me what we can do. And then he said, the biggest problem is I'm not going to be in one place. I'm going to be all over the state. And that's what he was. He was all over the state. And I said, that's okay. Tell me where you are and we'll find an institution. So he said, then let us start on the 2nd of October. I'm going to be in Trivandrum. So he said, I would like to start in the Chengalchula. Chengalchula is probably one of the only slums in the city. And he said he wanted to go there because when he was a minister several years ago, he was in charge of housing and he built the first housing board apartments for the residents of the Chengalchula area. And he went there on the 2nd. People were really surprised to see him there. There was no prior announcement. Just before going is when the security went there and he started walking through those lanes, meeting people, asking them what their problems are and what can be done for them. And then every place he went, he would visit either an orphanage, he would visit a place for disabilities. One of the places he visited was NISH, the National Institute of Speech and Hearing, about which I had done a video earlier. And any place where he was visiting one place. And the last day, before the last day, he called me the previous day at around 10 o'clock at night to tell me that he was supposed to go to an old age home in Tiruvalla the next day. But unfortunately, he will not be able to make it there because there was some important meeting or the meeting within the party that he had to stay back. And he said, can you find an institution, but preferably an old age home in Trivandrum. It was night 10, but I immediately called up the then director of social justice, a gem of a person called Jitendran, and told him there is something like this. And the CM wanted to, CM would like to do this, spend about an hour with them. So a few minutes later, he called back, he says, done. We can go to the old age home at Pulenar Kota, which is very near Akulam. So I called him back and said, yes. And I said, what time? And he tells me 7 o'clock in the morning. Because 8 o'clock he's got a meeting, or 8:30 he's got a meeting. Called back and told him, he says, that's okay, we'll arrange. 6 o'clock in the morning, he calls me and says, are you not coming with me? I said, I will come with you. And I said, we just need to reach there. It's not going to take more than half an hour. I'll be in your place in about 15, 20 minutes. There we went there. And when we went there, all these old men and women are really, they were so happy that the CM was coming. They were all sitting there like for a meeting. And he walked in and said, I've not come here for a meeting. I've come here just to meet you and talk to you. And you could see the difference on their face. And one lady walked up to him and said, I have been living here for the last over 10 years. I have a son. He has not come to see me so far. But I'm so happy that the Chief Minister of Kerala has come to see me. And you could see the tears in her eyes, the tears of those who were around him. After a few minutes, and he actually, he hugged her, he consoled her, and he started talking to each of them. And then one lady comes in and says, and in typical Malayalam, all of them were of course speaking Malayalam, but came and told him, I have a complaint. And I thought, my God, I hope the complaint is not against the administrator who runs the center, who actually went out of the way to get the whole thing arranged. She said, then she goes close to him and whispers to him, that lady sitting in the second row, the third person there, she actually beat me up yesterday. Just like a 2-year-old or a 3-year or 4-year-old child would tell an elder. And he said, why did she beat you? I don't know, she beat me up. So he then called that lady and then said, why did you beat her? And she said, I beat her because she used, and in typical Malayalam, say, Sare avarena pacha palla ulichu, which means she used very bad language against me. She abused me. So he then spoke to both of them, told them never do that. You're old, you have to look after each other. As if he was talking to his own children, was actually holding both their hands, got them to shake their hands together, and then told them no more fighting among you all. And after some, they were happy. And then he took out the shawl he had and gave it to one of them. And after interacting with all of them, nearly spending an hour, we were going back. I get a WhatsApp message from Jitendran telling me that the lady who got the shawl is actually tied the shawl around her head, and all of them are dancing because the CM came to see them. This is the individual that he is and the care that he has for the old age and for people with disability. It's very difficult to find a leader like him, and I don't know whether we'll find another one in years to come.